We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Rated PG-13.
Hi, I'm George Lucas. In my past 40 years of motion picture making, no subject has so inspired me as this story that happened in August 2016. The world saw a 3-year-old boy on global networks, and it really touched my heart. So much so that I had to tell his story. His name is Omran Daknish. His story is real. It happened. I'm telling this story because millions of other children just like Omran are still being hurt in war-torn countries resulting from neglect, illness, and uncaring masses. We must remember them all. You won't be leaving the movie theater without a tear in your eyes. I hope you'll come.
Rated PG-13.
Here's a bulletin from CBS News. President Kennedy has been the victim of an assassin's bullets in Dallas, Texas. It is not known as yet whether the president survived the attack against him. The incident was this. The president, Mrs. Kennedy, and Governor Connolly of Texas driving in the president's famed bubble-top car from Dallas Airport to downtown Dallas, where the president was scheduled to make a speech. 3 bullet shots were heard to ring out. The president slumped into the lap of Mrs. Kennedy. Witnesses said they saw blood streaming from his head. Governor Connolly slumped into the bottom of the car. Bullet wounds were seen to be in his chest. The car itself rushed on as Mrs. Kennedy was heard to say, "Oh, no." It took him directly to a nearby hospital, the Parkland Hospital, where the president and Governor Connolly were taken into the emergency room, and witnesses there refused to comment on whether the president was still alive or not. As the bullet was heard to wing out of the assassin's gun, Secret Service men unlimbered their automatic rifles, but the damage, of course, by then had been done. As these details come in, let us read a few to you from the press service wires reaching us only now from Dallas. After these three loud bursts of gunshots, Dallas motorcycle officers escorting the president quickly leaped from their bikes and raced up a grassy hill. At the top of a hill, a man and woman appeared huddled on the ground. In the turmoil, it has been impossible so far to determine whether the Secret Service and Dallas police returned the gunfire that struck down Kennedy and Connolly, or whether this couple at the top of the hill, crouched down their inert forms as the police rushed them, were the would-be assassins. Stay tuned for further details from CBS News. We'll bring you details now, more details on the attempted assassination of President Kennedy. Mrs. Kennedy was on her knees, we're told, on the floor of the rear seat of the car, her head toward the president, apparently leaning over and trying to converse with him. AP reporter who was with the group said that this man and woman we reported earlier were on a hilltop, were seen scrambling to the upper level of a walkway overlooking an underpass at which the car was approaching. Lawrence O'Brien, the presidential aide, says he has no information on whether the president is still alive. Mrs. Kennedy was weeping, trying to hold up her husband's head when the reporters reached the car as it dashed toward the hospital. Vice President Lyndon Johnson was in the car behind the president. There was no immediate sign that he was hurt. Repeating that, no indication Vice President Johnson was hurt. In fact, there was no evidence at all at what might have happened to Johnson, since only the president's car and its Secret Service follow-up car went on to the hospital. Let us recount this incident again. There has been an assassination attempt against the life of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas. The president, Mrs. Kennedy, and Governor Connolly of Texas, en route from the Dallas airport to a speech the president was scheduled to make at noon in Dallas, were in the president's famed bubble-top car, driving through cheering crowds in the streets of Dallas when 3 shots rang out. The president slumped into the lap of Mrs. Kennedy, apparently a bullet wound in his head. Governor Connolly slumped to the floor of the car. Bullet wounds were seen in his chest. Mrs. Kennedy screamed out, "Oh no!" The car stopped momentarily. Secret Service men unloaded their rifles and started into the crowd. 2 persons, a man and a woman, were seen crouched with a crowd around them on a hilltop overlooking the road. Whether they were concerned in the shooting or not, we do not know yet. Secret Service men rushed to that scene and were waiting a report on that. Vice President Johnson was in the car immediately following President Kennedy and Governor Connolly. He was not hurt as far as we are able to determine. The president and Governor Connolly were rushed to a nearby hospital, Parkland Hospital, where they were taken into the emergency room, and we have no information yet as to how serious the injuries were. However, aides very close to President Kennedy had no comment when they were asked by reporters the seriousness of the president's injuries. Late information just in. Acting White House Secretary Malcolm Kilduff was asked whether the president was dead, and he said, "I have no word now." The president had landed just a short time before, as we said, at Dallas Love Field. He was driving to the Trade Mart in Dallas to deliver this luncheon speech, which was to be sponsored by 3 Dallas organizations. The largest turnout of the current Texas tour was on the streets to greet Kennedy. He was being greeted lavishly by the crowd in a very warm Texas welcome when the bullet fired out of the crowd. Stay tuned. We'll bring you the details just as quickly as they come in. It might be recalled that Dallas has been a hotbed of criticism of President Kennedy and his administration by outspoken rightist groups. Only 2 weeks ago, Ambassador Adlai Stevenson of the United Nations was in an incident in Dallas when he was besieged by pickets, far right-wing pickets, outside of a speech he made there, and he was struck in the head by a picket sign by an outraged conservative who felt we should not be in the United Nations. Even today, through Dallas, there were cars touring the streets with signs, U.S. or UN. A little late information, Rear Admiral George Berkeley, the United States Navy, the White House physician, rushed into that Parkland Hospital in Dallas. He headed for the emergency room where the President and Governor Connolly were taken. We're still awaiting word as to the condition of the President from that emergency room. Governor Connolly of Texas is the young governor who managed the campaigns of Lyndon Johnson over the last several senatorial and vice presidential campaigns of Johnson's. He is a leader of what is considered the more conservative wing of the Democratic Party in Texas. Part of the reason for President Kennedy's being in Texas was to try to patch up differences between the conservative and liberal wings of the Democratic Party, which it was believed endangered the chances of the administration taking Texas in the 1964 election. Let's recount again that President Kennedy and Governor Connolly of Texas lie in the emergency room at Parkland Hospital in Dallas as an anxious world waits to learn how serious...
And then they turn their television camera on the moon for close-ups of its surface.
We should be getting pictures from the spacecraft in just a few moments. We're joined in on the sound side with the mission control in Houston, Texas now, so that we will be ready when it does happen.
Bank deployed.
We got this view, Neil.
Straight south.
Roger, and we see the shadow of the limb.
In the hill. Roger, the little hill just beyond the shadow of the limb is a pair of elongate craters. About probably the pair together is 40 feet long and 20 feet across, and they're probably 6 feet deep. We'll probably get some more work in there later.
Roger, and we see Buzz going about his work.
How's that for a final...
For a final orientation, we'd like it to come left about 5 degrees, over.
Omer Daknish. You saw me in an ambulance in Aleppo, the city of Syria, back in 2016 when Russian airstrikes destroyed my home. I was 3 then, today I'm almost 9. Please watch my friend's YouTube channel.